Hi friends, welcome back to my studio. Today I'm talking about my newest pen. I'm going to call it a Narwhal. I believe that is how I've heard to pronounce their new spelled name. I will say that this is older and so definitely has the old spelling on it of Narwhal. They've recently rebranded to improve their search engine optimization and other things. So the title will have how it's spelled now in it. But this is a used pen I bought recently. So I don't know exactly what the model name is. I'm pretty sure it's a Nautilus, but whether or not it's got any other additional words in the model name, I couldn't tell you. The person I bought it from didn't say. So if you watched my video recently about this custom-made pen, you saw a brief cameo of this one. But I also talked about in this one why I wanted this pen custom made like this, what kinds of things I like in a pen, cartridge converter, for example. And this pen is kind of in direct opposition to a lot of the things I claim I like. However, I am still really enjoying it. I've had it for a couple weeks now. But it is a piston filler, which I was like, at the time, I was like, I don't need all of that capacity. And I really still don't. That is still true. And it is the broadest nib I've had by a wide margin. Mostly because I mostly use fines. So let me show you kind of how staggeringly different this is from the other things in my collection. So it's kind of similar in size to my custom turned pen and in proportion really too. So that's pretty cool. It is heavy. This I believe is made out of ebonite, and it's a chonker. I mean, it's got some weight to it. A fair amount of the weight is in the cap. So when you take the cap off, the part you're holding is significantly lighter. I know that it's capped 38 grams. I don't know how much of it is in the cap off the top of my head, but I think the cap, it might be equal. I'll weigh it and I'll put it here, but the cap is a significant amount of the weight. It does not post, which is fine. It's plenty big enough for me to not have to post it, although I do sometimes post pens just because I don't know what to do with them, with the caps otherwise, and so I often find myself looking to cap it and can't, but it doesn't really bother me. It's beautiful. I don't know what the name of this color is, but it's like purple and teal with a little red in it. Really gorgeous. I do notice, however, when I work with it that my hands get a little bit of a smell from it. It's like kind of a rubbery smell, which I believe is what ebonite is made out of. It's like a hard rubber. It doesn't bother me. I'm not super smell sensitive, but is a thing I notice. So that's kind of interesting. It has rose gold accents, so a little pinker than the gold on this pen, but not super pink. Really, really pretty though. I love, let's see if we can get it to focus. I love the narwhal on the nib. It's not a reason to buy one of these pens, but it does not hurt. And the ink window is pretty fun too. This is my first pen with an ink window I would actually use. Oh, I'm not in frame. This pen has an ink window, but I never remember. so I never look at it. I just open it up and look at the size of the cartridge. So anyway, it's a chonker. It's kind of, I would say it's most like my vanishing points in terms of weight. This resin pen is significantly lighter, even though it's similar in size. According to the Goulet website, this one is 30 grams and this one is 38 according to my measurements, so fairly close. But you know, here are my current pen collection, and you can see how much wider and bigger it is than everything else. I mean, this vintage pen is particularly small, but you know, the difference between these two, the Magnum, is really, really stark. So by a lot of accounts, since I love these pens, and I really do, you'd think I might not like this one. But I do. I find it really nice to work with. It's got a nice weight to it. I don't know that I'd want to write for hours with it, but I mostly am writing to-do lists and short journal entries and whatever. So I'm never writing for very long. And also the nib on this, which we haven't gotten to, is not one that I'm going to be using to write for long periods of time anyway. So it's not that big a deal. It feels really nice in the hand. It's got weight to it, but like in a way that feels really, really pleasant. So let's talk about this nib. So as I said, I bought this used from our pen swap and on Reddit, and the person I'd bought it from had done an italic grind on it himself. I don't know if he started with a broad or a double broad, I'm not sure, but it has about a 1 millimeter downstroke. So I'm just actually going to use a smaller scrap here of my fountain pen friendly paper. My favorite is my go-to is the Cosmo Air Snow, but it's got this italic nib, which I haven't entirely learned how to like best write with yet. And I didn't look up what the new spelling of Narwhal is. So it's got this italic grind on it, and I'm really enjoying it. It's way wider than all my like Japanese fine nibs. They're not all Japanese fines, but that is my like safe zone when it comes to nib size, and this is very, very wide in comparison. Here's my vanishing point fine, for example, with its like nice springy nib there. So huge difference. But if you've watched my fountain pen lineup, I think is what I called it. I had a video recently where I talked about how all of these work in a team and how I think about different pens because I use them for different things. I often think about my pens in terms of writers and headers, essentially. And so these Japanese fine and extra fine pens are the pens that make up the content of my writing most of the time. And these like flex pens and wider European ones, which this would go into, I use as headers, special focus words. They're not what I'm filling my to-do list in my planner with because I'm using a pretty small planner size. So, for example, so here's like a pretty standard planner page for me. So I use the Japanese fines for the content, but this was using the Diplomat Magnum for a little extra things to kind of add emphasis. And I think that this pen will work great for that. You know, on other times I do flex. So it's going to be slotting into that position. And at the moment, I've taken my Fountain Pen Revolution pen out of the rotation. It's not inked right now, and this one has subbed in instead because I think 7 pens is really, I guess we're at 8, although this one's not inked, is really my limit. I'm not full Drew Brown at only 3, but I think 7 is about as far as I can go. So I've never used an metallic nib before, but I find it really enjoyable, so I think he did a good job on it. But I'm not someone who knows how to talk about that. And then these are, I believe, Yovo nibs and can be swapped out, and I know that one can find Narwhal nibs separately also. So by a lot of ways of thinking about it, this is a pen that I don't know I would think was for me. I also probably wouldn't buy one. One of the nice things about buying used, besides, you know, masking my consumerism in a nice veneer of eco-friendliness, is that I knew I was receiving this exact pen with these exact colors and markings, and I don't know that I would have bought one of these without knowing exactly what it looked like. Maybe. I mean, because the striation's not as scary as some of like the resin pens sometimes are, but it's nice to know exactly what I'm going to get. So I'm a big fan of buying used. I think I haven't had any bad experiences so far, and honestly, with the exception of my custom-made pen, all of my expensive pens have been used, which I really like. So, and then, you know, if something ends up not being the right thing for me, then I can sell it again if it comes to that, although I haven't. I really love this ink in this pen, by the way. This is the Sailor Ink Studio 473, and this pen, you know, it does some good shading with that super broad metallic nib. So if you're into shading inks and chromo shading inks like I am, it's fun to be working with something this big. So now I've been handling this enough that I'm starting to really get the smell of it going. As I said, it doesn't bother me, but it is a thing that happens. Anyhow, this is my somewhere between first impressions and review. I haven't really used it enough for like a full usage review. The piston worked well. It's a little sticky to get going, but it wasn't terrible. I could try lubricating it. I don't know how old this pen is. The biggest thing that I was not expecting was the weight. I knew it wasn't a small pen. I wasn't expecting it to be as heavy as it is. But as I said, a lot of it's in the cap, so you're not having to wield that around as you're writing. Like, if I'm holding this whole, and if I were writing with this, it'd be way too heavy. But without the cap, it's really quite comfortable. The threads don't, and the little tiny step up don't bother me at all. It's a really nice pen, and I love that it has a narwhal on it, because I have an ongoing joke with one of my good college friends who believes that narwhals are not real things. So it's not why I bought the pen, but it's a little extra fun. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. Have you used any narwhal pens? Do you like them? What was your first piston filler? If you are interested in sharing any of those things in the comments, I would love to read them. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, friends.